Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now here I am to review my pick for number 8. For my picks for the top 10 best live action Disney movies. Here I am with a review for Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So yeah, this is actually really good. I mean, I didn't really watch this movie that much growing up, but after watching it now, I've just like really seen like how really good this movie really is. I mean, yeah, this movie is just like really entertaining to watch. It has a lot of charm to it. It has yeah, you can definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. It's just a really good movie. I mean, yeah, it has like really good performances from like the two main actors in this movie. It has some really good scenes in this movie, has some good humor to it. It does have like really good songs to it. I mean, yeah, just this movie has like just about everything about this movie is really good. The only thing that maybe like some people could get a little offended over is the stuff with the Nazis that are in the movie. Yeah, Nostalgia Critic talked about this in his Disney Summer Review. I mean, there's nothing like really that offensive in it to Nazis or about Nazis or anything. But yeah, depending on what you see of Nazis and what you think of them, you could get offended by it depending on what you think about Nazis, but it's really nothing like that terrible. Like, nothing bloody or gritty or anything from the fight with the Nazis at the end of the movie. But yeah, this movie does really have a lot of really good things about it. Yeah. This movie, like, often does get kind of, like, compared to with Mary Poppins a lot because it's really similar in its setup. I mean, it still, like, takes place in Britain. It does have, like, some of the same actors from Mary Poppins, particularly like David Tomlinson, who played Mr. Banks in Mary Poppins, and in this movie he plays Mr. Brown. Yeah, and then yeah, it does have like a few other actors that were also in Mary Poppins, and it also does have some of the same crew. I mean, it has the same director. This film's still under the direction of Robert Stevenson. It does like also have like of course the same songwriters, the Sherman Brothers, and yeah, it's just some other people that worked on Mary Poppins also worked on this film. So yeah, it does kind of have a similar setup to Mary Poppins, but yeah, it does have like some different elements to it also. Like, rather than like just like a magical nanny or something, in this film, like Miss Price is a witch or like a witch in training or something, and she's like looking over three children, and yeah, it's not like really like complete like the exact same story as Mary Poppins. Like, it does have some differences to it. Yeah, and yeah, I actually do like the idea of them like traveling on the bed. Like the bed is like their mode of transportation around to get like the magical spells that they need and stuff. So yeah, I actually thought like the transporting bed was actually really interesting in this film. And yeah, we do, like I said, we do have a lot of really good things about this movie. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Angela Lansbury and David Tomlinson are really good in this movie. The child actors, while they're really not like that great, I mean they're not horrible or anything. Like, I guess they're passable, well, except for maybe Paul. Like, yeah, Nostalgia has really said like the actor who plays Paul in this movie really doesn't seem to be really trying that hard. And yeah, I would agree. Like, his acting really is like just really not that good. But I mean, he's like a young kid, so yeah. What can you really say? But yeah, this is definitely like a really good, enjoyable movie. I mean, if you haven't seen this yet, you should definitely check it out because yeah, you'll definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. I would give this movie probably 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, yeah, just a really good, enjoyable movie. Yeah, so yeah, I don't really want to talk too much about this, so yeah, let me just get right into the movie. And I should also like to point out real quick that this review is going to be for the original cut of the movie. I mean, Nostalgia Critic said in his Disney Summer Review that he recommend that people do watch the original cut rather than the extended cut, and so I took his advice and I just watched the original cut of this movie. So yeah, this review is going to be for the original cut, so I'm not going to go over anything that may have been like in the extended version or anything. Yeah, even if like I did watch the extended version, I probably wouldn't even talk about that stuff anyway. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. This is just for the original version. Alright, so let me just get right into it. Alright, so the movie is set around like the 1940. This is set like during the Blitz. It's, well, yeah. And they're showing, like, there are, like, children that have been, brought, been, like, evacuated from, um, uh, London. And now, like, they're just, like, being put in foster care here due to the bombings in London. And then, like, it shows the three Rollins children, Charlie, Carrie, and Paul. They're like placed in the care of Miss Eglantine Price, and she's kind of like really like not on board with taking care of the kids, but I mean it's showing that she really is like pretty much forced to do it, and so she agrees to take care of the kids temporarily, and she asks like she just asked the supervisor for the children's refugee, Miss Hobday, to try to find another family that can take care of the kids. Yeah, but and then Miss Price brought the children home with them, and at first they were like trying to just let's think of a way to just flee from Mrs. Price's home and just run back to London. But then on their first night there, like it's shown that Miss Price did like have a package from Professor Emilius Brown, and it turned out it was like a broomstick, and it was of course like a magical broomstick to give her the ability to fly. And as Charlie, Carrie, and Paul were trying to flee to London, they then saw Miss Price flying on the broomstick, but it then shows that she eventually ends up crashing, and so then after that, like Charlie then wanted to stay, and then Carrie and Paul agreed. And then the next morning, they then revealed to Miss Price that they know who she is. Yeah. And then, like, Charlie tried to, like, get Miss Price to give them, like, some, like, other stuff to get them to be quiet and not reveal that she's a witch to anybody. But then, like Miss Price just told them that she could use her magic on them, and then Charlie just dared Miss Price to turn him into a toad, and then when Miss Price like recited the spell, it turned out that Charlie was then turned into a bunny, but the spell was very short, and then Charlie changed back like a few minutes after. And then Miss Price then just then like giving the she also like learns that at the school that she actually does like receive her magical spells from is also closing down. And then like she also like then offered the children like a transportation spell in order to keep them silent, and then she then like used one of the knobs on the kid's bed that Paul removed from the bed, and then she added like the spell to the knob, and then like she just then told him that Paul was the one that could work the spell. And then after she got word about the school closing down, and this like she learned that she couldn't use like this meant that she wouldn't be able to actually learn the final spell she needs, and then she just like then asked Paul to just use the bed to go to London and try to find Professor Brown, and then like Miss Price and the three kids eventually then sat on the bed and then transported to London to try to find Professor Brown, and then they eventually did, but then it was shown that Professor Brown was pretty much just like a showman that actually just like made this magical course that he does from an old book that he actually found. And he didn't really feel that they worked at first, but then he then saw that they worked for Miss Price. And then eventually, like, he took Miss Brown and the kids to the place where the magical book was actually kept, and they eventually found it, but Miss Price, like, when she looked through the book, she saw that the final spell was missing. And so then they eventually, like, traveled to Portobello Road, to try to find the book, and then we had like the huge musical segment with the Portobello Road, yeah, and yeah, this also like kind of reminds me of like the step in time sequence from Mary Poppins. Like it did seem very similar because it just seemed to go on forever. So yeah, and then they eventually then like came across like the spy Swinebird, and then he even just ended up taking them to his like boss, who was just known as the Bookman. And then it turned out that he was the one that actually did have the remainder of the book, and eventually, as they looked through it, they learned that the spell was actually just kept on a medallion that was known as the Star of Astaroth. And then eventually the bookman then just revealed that it that medallion may have actually been taken by some wild animals that were actually given anthropomorphism. And then like they were located on a remote island that was called Naboombu. Yeah. And the bookman just didn't believe that the island was actually real. Since like he looked everywhere on the charts for it, but Paul then con- revealed that the island did exist because he had a book that he got from the Mr. Brown's house. And so then Mr. Brown, Miss Price, and the kids then just ended up flying to the island on the bed, and then they eventually just landed in the lagoon. And then they eventually came across King Leonidas, who was like a really like not very well-tempered lion that was the ruler of the island, and then it was shown he was actually wearing the Star of Astaroth. And as Mr. Brown was like acting as a referee in a soccer match for the king, and like he tried to snatch the medallion away, and then he eventually ended up getting it back. Like after like he swapped the medallion with his referee whistle. Well, yep, and then Miss Price then discovered that the missing spell was substitutionary locomotion. Yeah. Yeah. And then when they then transported back home, it was then shown that the medallion actually was actually vanished back into the world of Nabumu. But Paul then also then revealed that the spell was also had been in his storybook the entire time. And then Miss Price then was trying to test out the spell on Mr. Brown's shoes, and then it did work, but also just the effect of the spell was that it like put life in the shoes, but it also like ended up like bringing a lot of other items in the house to life also, and like Miss Price couldn't control them. And then later on that night, like Miss Hobday informed Miss Price that she found another family for the children, but yeah, Miss Price and the kids both wanted to stay. Yeah, and like the kids were then just saying that Mr. Brown was now like a father figure to them, and yeah, at first like once Mr. Brown heard that, he like really didn't want to stay for that, and then he just then like after that he then just like tried to flee back to London, and of course like the kids really weren't too happy about that, and yeah, and Mr. Brown was then just like waiting for a train at the train station, and he was just like staying there all night until the next train arrived. And then like that night it was then shown that there were like some Nazi commandos that were on the coast, and then they ended up like invading Miss Price's house, and eventually like the Nazis then just ended up imprisoning Miss Price and the kids in like a museum. And after Mr. Brown then saw like there were Nazis disabling the phone lines, then like Mr. Brown then just went to Miss Price and the kids' rescue, and then like to like avoid the Nazis, Mr. Brown then just used the spell to turn himself into a bunny. Yeah. And then he was able to sneak into the museum where Miss Price and the kids were. And then, and yeah, Miss Price was then inspired to use the substitutionary locomotion spell on the items in the museum. And then it was shown that all the armor suits in the museum were given life. And then, yeah, they did battle with the Nazis, and yeah, it was like entertaining to watch. And eventually, the Nazis were then just chased off. But as the Nazis were leaving, they ended up like blowing up and destroying Mrs. Price's workshop, and then that would mean that her career as a witch would be over. And yeah, of course, like Mrs. Price, she really wasn't happy that she was no longer a witch, but she was also happy that she also like ended up playing a part in like the war effort, because yeah, this I should have probably mentioned earlier, like the spell that she wanted to learn was something that she wanted to use to end the war, and so yeah, she was happy that she at least like did play a part in the war effort here. Yeah. And then yeah, it just then showed that Mr. Brown was then like joining into the army, but he promised Miss Price and the kids that he would return, and then he then just ended up departing with like the rest of the army escorting him through. And as he was leaving, it was just shown that Paul then also revealed that he still did have the enchanted doorknob, and so yeah, it was like hinting that they could continue on with their adventures on the bed, but yeah, it's never actually revealed whether they do or not, because yeah, there was no sequel to this movie, and this was how this film ended, so yeah, we never know if they do continue on with their adventures on the bed, but yeah, it's always nice to think on they may have. So yeah, I guess we can just guess whether they did or not, and just hope that they did, or believe that they did eventually one day. But yeah, that's how the movie ended. So yeah, 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, a very good, enjoyable movie, and yeah, it just has a lot of charm to it, and yeah, just the two main actors are really good, and yeah, a lot of good songs in here, and just yeah, a very entertaining plot to it, and yeah, just a really enjoyable movie altogether. Like I said before, check this out if you haven't seen it. You'll definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. Alright, so yeah, that does for my review of Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.